Elizabeth Short did not arrive in the world as a mystery. She became one over time. She was born in Massachusetts in 1924, the third of 5 daughters, into a family that collapsed slowly and then all at once. Her father disappeared when she was 6. His car was found near a bridge. The assumption was suicide. No body was recovered. For years, Elizabeth lived with the idea that abandonment could look like death, and that absence could pass as fact. She grew up sick. Asthma kept her indoors, limited her schooling, and shaped her days around breath and patience. While other children moved freely, Elizabeth stayed still. She read constantly. She imagined elsewhere. Illness trained her to observe rather than act. When she was older, she began to move. First between relatives. Then between cities. She did not drift randomly. She left when she sensed she had stayed too long. People described her as polite, careful, almost apologetic for existing. She did not impose. She adapted. In 1942, she learned her father was alive. He had not died. He had simply chosen another life. Elizabeth went to California to find him. The reunion did not last. He disapproved of her ambitions, her independence, her refusal to settle. Within months, she was gone again. After that, Elizabeth moved with more urgency. As if stability had proven unreliable. Los Angeles did not notice Elizabeth Short when she arrived, and that was normal. The city was full of young women chasing futures that rarely materialized. Elizabeth lived where she could, worked when she could, stayed presentable even when circumstances were not. She talked about acting, but she did not have an agent, contracts, or auditions that led anywhere. The dream mattered more than the logistics. It gave direction to movement that otherwise had none. People remembered her clothing. Dark skirts. Pale skin. A quiet presence. The nickname, Black Dahlia, appeared later, not as an identity she chose, but as something others applied after the fact. At the time, she was simply another woman passing through rooms she did not own. By late 1946, something shifted. Elizabeth seemed more cautious. She spoke of being afraid without naming a source. She moved more frequently. She relied on fewer people. There was no documented threat, only a change in behavior that would later be reinterpreted. On January 9, 1947, Elizabeth was dropped off at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She said she was meeting her sister. She entered the lobby calmly. That is the last confirmed sighting. No one knows where she went next. No one can place her with certainty after that moment. For several days, nothing happened. On January 15, 1947, a woman walking with her child noticed something unusual in a vacant lot. At first, it looked artificial. Discarded. Out of place. Elizabeth Short's body had been cut cleanly in two, drained of blood, washed, and positioned deliberately. The cuts were precise. Controlled. There was no evidence of a struggle at the scene. Whatever had happened, it had happened elsewhere. Before the police fully secured the area, photographers arrived. Footprints overlapped. Evidence shifted. The crime scene began dissolving almost immediately. Elizabeth was identified quickly through fingerprint records. Her name was released to the press before procedures were completed. A reporter contacted her mother under false pretenses. By the time the truth was known, the story no longer belonged to the family or the investigators. It belonged to everyone. And when a case belongs to everyone, responsibility becomes harder to locate. The investigation expanded rapidly. Hundreds of detectives. Thousands of tips. More than 500 confessions before the year ended. Most were false. Some were detailed. All consumed time. The killer contacted newspapers. Personal belongings were mailed, washed in gasoline. Evidence arrived already altered. The sender demonstrated knowledge of procedure, evidence handling, and media behavior. Newspapers published details police had not released. The killer learned in real time what investigators knew. The investigation became a conversation, not a pursuit. The profile that emerged suggested someone with medical or anatomical knowledge. Someone comfortable with planning. someone patient. Yet files went missing. Leads were mishandled. Internal politics interfered. The case grew larger than the systems meant to contain it. And large systems fail quietly. Over the years, several suspects emerged. Each fit part of the picture. None fit all of it. A surgeon with a disturbing history left the country before charges could be filed. A mortician's assistant demonstrated knowledge he should not have possessed but was cleared legally. A man connected to similar crimes died before arrest. Others hovered at the edges of possibility without evidence strong enough to hold. As time passed, witnesses aged. Evidence degraded. By 1960, key materials were missing from police storage. Whatever clarity might have existed earlier narrowed until it vanished. No arrest was made. No trial occurred. The case did not end. It simply stopped moving. Elizabeth Short's murder remains unsolved not because nothing was known, but because too much was lost. The crime exposed weaknesses in evidence handling, media ethics, and investigative structure. Reforms followed. Protocols changed. Future cases benefited. Elizabeth did not. What remains is not just a question of identity, but of process. How easily a life can become a symbol. How quickly attention can replace care. How systems respond better to spectacle than to protection. Elizabeth Short is remembered as the Black Dahlia, but before that, she was a young woman who moved often, trusted carefully, and hoped quietly. Her story persists not because the mystery deepens, but because the failure feels incomplete. Some stories end with answers. This one ends with a space where an answer should have been, and never arrived. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like for more amazing stories on our channel. See you soon.